How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another Emerald City Hockey post-game live after that awesome 2-0 win for the Seattle Kraken. Philip Grubauer. We're going to be talking plenty about Gru tonight. Incredible shutout from him. Great game for the Kraken. I mean, the Kraken really needed this one to kind of stay in things in the Western Conference. Kings, last I saw, look like we're going to win. Predators picking up a win. So the Kraken really needed the 2 points tonight, able to get that win over the Penguins. We'll talk all about how it went down and everything. Quick programming note: unfortunately, RJ's under the weather, is not going to be able to join us. Wasn't able to attend the game, so I just want to let everybody know that. Real quick off the get-go here. And of course, thank our wonderful sponsor, Flat Stick Pub, for supporting Emerald City Hockey and supporting these post-game lives and letting us do these with their incredible sponsorship. And anybody who's at the game can head over to that South Lake Union location, get $1 off beer after this one, just show your ticket, and have a good time. Have a good time, as I'm sure we're all going to have here on Post Game Live. Kicking things off with super chats here. First one from Sean. What a game for the German gentleman. Best game as a Kraken. Loving what we are seeing from him. Said it last time, right? I think we're going to see, Grubauer for a while. Said he was really on point and sharp. You could not ask for a more sharp goaltender in this one. Hello. Could not ask for a more sharp goaltender in this one. The way he was tracking the puck, the way he was always in front of whatever play was developing for the Penguins. I mean, he was there before the puck was, when they were passing for one-timers or to get it to a guy net front. I mean, Philip Grubauer, really, I'm with you. Like, this is up there as one of his best games as a Kraken, if not his best game. He was just so dialed in, so on top of things. Don't want to take anything away from the defense either. Defense did a great job playing in front of him, held the Penguins to a lot of low percentage chances. This really felt like back during the Kraken's big win streak earlier this season. Remember when they had kind of changed up how they were playing? They were allowing a lot of shots on goal, but they were all low quality chances. And then they weren't taking a lot of shots on goal, the Kraken, but they were all high quality chances, the few that they were taking. And this game really felt like that. This felt like kind of a return to form for when the Kraken were playing their best hockey this season. I think that's what we got tonight. And the result certainly speaks to that, with the Kraken, finding a way. You win a low scoring game 2-0 and get it done. So really good stuff from the Kraken. We'll break down more of that as we go, but thank you for the super chat there, Sean. James with the super chat. We're back, finally able to watch a game again, and this was great. Total team effort from my perspective. This was a game where, like I was just starting to talk about, Kraken really knew what they had to do to win this one, and that was, survive the first 10, 15, really 20 minutes of this game when the Penguins were really just all over it. I mean, they were able to get in deep into the Kraken zone. They were able to complete any pass they wanted to. They were passing into like double, triple coverage and finding their man. It was rough at the beginning. Obviously, Edzo was not a huge fan. Kraken were able to get that good bounce there with Bjorkstrand, kind of being Johnny on the spot, get that goal in the first period, take some wind out of the Penguins' sails. But yes, the start of this game was not great, but credit to the Kraken. They made their adjustments during the intermission. They came out, they were skating faster, they looked sharper. Obviously, Grubauer was phenomenal throughout. I mean, without him, this game gets off the rails within minutes. I mean, minutes into this game, it goes off the rails if Philip Grubauer doesn't do what he was doing. So good stuff there. But yeah, I'm with you, James. This was a total team effort all the way through. Chip with the super chat. Lots to still clean up, but I'm very happy to see us return to favor in to Pittsburgh. Gru is back, baby. Great efforts in the second half all around. It was like you just said. I mean, we were just talking about this. I promise I wasn't reading ahead and stealing anything. It was a great effort. I mean, the Kraken found a way to come back in this one, battle back, get it all done, all that good stuff. I mean, I was just talking about it. Stuff to clean up still. Yeah, you still do a little bit better on the power plays, right? 1 for 4 tonight. Things to improve there. But otherwise, I mean, this was a pretty complete game for the Kraken. More complete than they've had in a while, I would say. It's certainly been a while. Even when they've been winning, they haven't played necessarily this well, this complete as they did in this one. And then Seth with the super chat. Gru showing us why he's paid the big bucks. I mean, Gru has come back. He's playing like a number one goaltender right now, and the Kraken need it. Joey did it for a very long time. did a fantastic job, kept the season alive for the Kraken, kept them in this spot where if they can go on a run, they can really make the big push here to get to the playoffs. Unfortunately, burnout happens when you play like 20 straight games, and Grubauer back fully healthy, able to take over, and it looks like he's ready to do basically what Joey did, which, if he can do that, I mean, the Kraken are really going to be in this until very, very late into the season. It's going to be very interesting. I'm just pulling up the kind of updated standings. Yeah. Unfortunate for the wins for both LA and Nashville. Kraken's still 7 points back of the wild card spots there, but they're now tied with Calgary and St. Louis, and they're 1 point ahead of Minnesota with a game in hand on Minnesota too. So it's still positive, progress for the Kraken. That's all still good, but gonna need to string a couple of these together, unfortunately. Absurdly said, I think my girl needs a victory treat. Absolutely. Afra, where'd you go? Come on. Where'd you say I'd get to you? Come back up here. Get Afra her well-deserved treats. Yes. Good co-pilot today while RJ's out. Yes. Oh, there you go. Can you eat on camera? There we go. Kind of close. Milo with the super chat. Absolute groovy masterclass. That's my goalie. Love the dollar amount there for the super chat, Milo. By the way, with the 31 for Grubauer. He was phenomenal. I mean, we talk about it a lot with Philip Grubauer, right? He's a far more technical goalie than certainly Chris Drieger or Joey Decord was, or are. This was a game where he really showed that off. I talked about it earlier, kind of his anticipation and following the puck movement that the Penguins have and what it is they want to be doing, where they're looking to go. There was a lot of times where Grubauer knew exactly where the open Penguin was, and he knew the Penguins were going to find him. And so he was able to kind of cheat over and make sure he could get there before the puck was. He could be square to a shot. We've talked a lot in the past about how much Philip Grubauer's goaltending style relies upon how square to the puck he can be, how in front of it he can be, and just the strength of his positioning and how much of his goaltending depends on him having that positioning. And when he's dialed in like tonight, where he can anticipate those movements, he can anticipate what the other team wants to do, where he can see where his defense might be a little soft, and so he knows he should anticipate to go over there. You see just how effective that positioning can be, how effective his goaltending style can be, because, I mean, just nothing gets by him if he's in front of it, and he just made sure tonight that he was always in front of it. So great work from him. I would show this game to young goaltenders for sure when it comes to puck tracking, player tracking out of your peripheral vision, knowing where everybody is on the ice. That kind of awareness, if you're a positional goaltender, is super important. And this was, as you said, Milo, a masterclass from Philip Grubauer tonight. Schultz with the super chat. How many times has a goaltender been either first star or at least in the stars after first season? What more could you want? Big game coming against Edmonton. Oh, it's going to be a tough one. Obviously, we know our struggles against the Oilers. We know our struggles in matinee games. And Saturday, it's a 1:00 start, I believe. It's going to be interesting, but let's not focus on that yet. We still got this game to talk about. And yes, I mean, Philip Grubauer absolutely deserves, let's see, where is he? First star, of course. Absolutely well-deserved from Philip Grubauer. It's been a lot of games. It has been a lot of games, Schultz. I mean, I'm trying to think, but it feels like just about every Kraken win this year, one of their goaltenders has been in that star conversation because they've needed to be, right? This isn't a team that's going to go out there and score a ton of goals, blow out a team 7-1 or something like that, or 6-3, right? We haven't really had games like that this year. So a lot of the efforts that the Kraken have been able to win have been on the backs of their goaltenders. And I think that's just the way they need to play. I think, again, this was the team recognizing that that's the way they need to play. And that's how they kind of loaded up and win at and approached this game. And we saw the effectiveness of that, right? They pick up a 2-0 victory. That's a team that, knows how they have to win, and they managed to do it. And you look at both goals too, right? We've spent a lot of time talking about defense, talking about Philip Grubauer. Look at both goals the Kraken scored tonight. Where was it? Dirty areas in and around the crease. They were making sure they were there for rebounds, for loose pucks, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, that is where the Kraken knew they were going to get goals tonight and get behind that Penguins defense, and that's what they did. And so I love this style of game and the game plan from the Kraken. Good stuff from Dave Haxtell and his 500th game coached at the NHL level. I think this is really the recipe to success for the Kraken kind of down the stretch, as long as they're getting goaltending from either Grubauer or Decord. that can support playing this way. I think this is the way that they need to play. Light with the super chat. Sneaky good game for Matty tonight. He was the better franchise cornerstone center tonight, in my opinion. Another amazing third period tonight, too. Matty did have a phenomenal game. What I liked about Matty's game in this one was if you watched him in the defensive zone, one, his line did pretty well offensively. They were pushing a lot of possession, and that was good to see. But defensively, Hackstall wasn't afraid to deploy him against Sidney Crosby. And one of the things that we haven't seen a lot of from Matty defensively, one of the few things that he has to work on and develop as he's in the NHL is kind of shadowing a star player on the other team and just trying to shut them down and take them out of play. And we kind of saw that from Matty tonight. It was clear that his assignment was Sidney Crosby. And I thought he did a pretty good job of hanging with Sidney Crosby. I mean, it's about as tough a ask as you could ever, assign to somebody, right? Is to go and shut down Sidney Crosby. But obviously, I mean, Matty was up to it, and he gave a really good effort. I would love to know or to be there and be able to ask Sidney Crosby about that. Just because I have to imagine there'd be a healthy amount of respect for Matty and what Matty was able to do against Crosby tonight. But I thought that was really interesting because I'd actually had that conversation with RJ, not part of anything. We were just talking the other day, and I talked about that was kind of like the next step for Matty defensively. And then here it was tonight, him kind of starting to do that and shadow an opposing team's star and try to take them out of things. And, he did a good job. I don't know that I would say Matty played a better complete game and everything over Crosby. I mean, Crosby, certainly he can bring the offense. You look at him diving to keep pucks in on a power play. You look at late in the game, him going down to keep the puck in the zone when the Penguins have their goalie pulled. I mean, he is just all over the place. The plays he makes, the passes he can pull off, diagonally across the zone are just, there's a reason he is who he is. But Matty, I mean, this was a big step in his development to be able to go up against him and not look silly and not get tossed around and not lose his man and to actually effectively make a difference against a guy like Sidney Crosby. It's huge for Matty, and I hope he is so proud of the effort he put in tonight. Seth with the super chat. We should lose to the Wild more often. We tend to go streaking after we do. Apparently so. I mean, let's hope then that at the end of the season, last game of the season, when we play the Wild, we're in a position where we can afford to lose that game, still make the playoffs, and then go on a big win streak for the playoffs. I think that sounds pretty good, right? I think that's good. James with the super chat. What's up with Berkey just when he's kicking ass? I know. I mean, it's just so unfortunate. Both years with Andre Burakovsky just been hurt again. Day to day is the word. I don't know that we got any other level of whatchamacallit, diagnosis or area, upper lower body, whatever. But we know that Hackstall listed him as day to day. And it's unfortunate. RJ put out on Twitter earlier the stat. He has missed 78 games since signing with the Kraken, and he has played in 76. It's really, really tough. Really, really tough. Just so much bad luck for him. I feel so bad for him. Feel so bad for him. And then, of course, Gregory here with the super chat with the lemon lime Gatorade time, baby, with the huge groove. And anytime Pittsburgh loses, an angel gets its wings. Ah, yes. Tell me you're a Caps fan before the Kraken without telling me you're a Caps fan there, Gregory. I know, we've talked. But yes, this is going to be, oh man, I'm going to need this tonight doing the whole thing solo. We'll be coming back to that. And then I will be downing that the moment the stream is over. Let me tell you, Gregory. So appreciate that. And then from Chip, can we talk about the amount of Kraken hand-eye coordination tonight? Both Bjorky and Winnie's goals and Big Rig Soccer kicking the puck to clear. Yes, we can. So I mentioned it earlier, right? Both goals happen in and around the crease for the Kraken. Love to see that. It's not something we're used to seeing from them. They went to the dirty areas. They're trying to manufacture those goals, be aggressive on those rebounds, shoot for rebounds, try to make plays in and around the crease, get behind the defense. Penguins defense was letting them too. I mean, there was a lot of times where the two closest players to Tristan Jarry were both Kraken players, which is not something you ever want to do if you're, I'm sure defensive coaches everywhere watching this and just freaking out. But the Kraken did a good job of identifying that they could do that to this Penguins blue line, and then they actually executed on it. What I love about the Wenberg one, because there was the element of course, puck comes out to him, he kicks it up to his stick, and then in it goes. He actually did that on the previous sequence too. When Tristan Jarry covers up the puck and then they go to the faceoff that ultimately then leads on the next shift to Wenberg scoring. Wenberg did that too on the ground. He was getting up. He had been pushed down to the ground, Wenberg. He's popping back up, and as he's coming back up, he's swatting at the puck. It goes past him. As he's getting up, he's just lifted his knee up off the ice, and with his free leg, he does the same thing, and he kicks the puck up to his stick, takes that big shot. Jari was able to cover that one, but I just thought it was very fascinating. We got to see him kind of do the skate to stick 2 times in a matter of under a minute probably on the game clock. I mean, just great work from Alexander Wenberg. Not something we see from him all too often, but I do think that in this game, they were able to open him up a little bit because of that coverage assignment given to Matty Beniers to go up against Crosby. Kinda opened up Wenberg a little bit, and, I thought that was good to see. I also thought it was interesting that they kept Bjorkstrand on that second line with Alexander Wenberg, just to talk about that for a second too, right? We know Berkey was out. I could see a coach having the temptation, put Bjorkstrand back down on the Yanni Gord line with Ellie Tolvanen, but Hextall stuck with what he was kind of going with. We knew, part of the reason they had done that shakeup was to try to get Yanni Gord and Ellie Tolvanen going a little bit, just because they had slowed down that line with Bjorkstrand had kind of slowed down for a while there. So they moved Cartier up to that line to fill in the gap for Berkey, keep Bjorkstrand on the second line, and I thought that was really good. It helped even out a lot of the scoring, because we know going into this game that Maddie line was pulling a lot of weight. Not so much Maddie, but certainly Everly and McCann were pulling a lot of weight in the goal scoring department. And I thought in this one it really did show, and it made a difference having Bjorkstrand out there with Alexander Wenberg and Jaden Schwartz. I thought that helped a lot. And I also thought that the Yanni Gord line with Ty Cartier, is it just me, or did they kind of have an extra step to him, especially Yanni Gord? I think Yanni Gord kind of liked playing with the Ty Cartier, very, very physical, fast north-south player, similar to himself, but on the wing. I thought there was kind of like an extra pep to his step with Yanni Gord there. I think he liked it. I really do. So I think we might see some good stuff out of that line if Ty Cartier does, in fact, hang around for a little while, depending on the Berkey situation. So I thought that was an interesting thing. Just a little note there from me. All right. Thank you all so much for the super chats. 12 super chats to kick things off. Absolutely incredible. Really, really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. And then over into the comment section, where I have about like 4,000 comments to get through here. Nothing too big or anything. About the first 100, it looks like, are all talking about Gru, as they should be. I mean, just incredible stuff. Oh, I guess Maddie, and I didn't mention this when we talked about the stuff. The Alexiak kick at the end was sick. Yes, great clear from Alexiak with the soccer style kick. Go the soccer style or more hacky sack? What are we thinking with that? Because I don't know. There was an element of maybe did he use his heel a little bit? I'd have to see a replay. I didn't really get to see a replay. Was that a little bit more of a hacky sack motion? I don't know. Whatever it was fantastic. And again, they don't, you could use whatever to clear it. Like, that's totally legal. The only thing you can't do with the kicking motion is score a goal, but you can clear the zone with it for sure. So good on Jamie Alexiak for doing that. Another super chat here from Gary with the big Gru. Philip Winter Classic jersey was the right call for tonight's choice. Oh, absolutely, Gary. Bring on the Leafs Cup final. We are ready. They're ready. Yes. Oh my gosh. No, if the Kraken are able to keep playing like this, they have a really good shot of getting up there, being in contention for that wild card spot. And then certainly this is playoff style hockey to a T. I mean, this is how you win in the postseason. No doubts about that at all. Just none. I mean, this is it. So good stuff from them all the way around. Tammy, where are the Gru haters now? Congrats to Coach for game 500. Absolutely, really, really happy, and a huge milestone for Coach Dave Haxtell. 500 games as an NHL coach is a big one. I mean, that's a long time to get there, and he definitely deserves it. Happy that he's been able to hang around and have the career that he's had at the NHL level there. Elizabeth, I almost jinxed it by mentioning shutout with 17 seconds to go, but phew, Groovy came through like he did all game. Yeah, this one, the writing was on the wall for a while. I feel like that was my reaction to watching it. I mean, Grubauer was just so dialed in. The Penguins really threw everything they had at him in the first period, and then after that, yeah, they're a good team. They're desperate there towards the end. You always got to worry about things, but the Kraken had really picked up their play in front of Grubauer too, on top of just his phenomenal performance. Love that stuff. The first of few, maybe only Kraken shutouts on a leap year day. Certainly doesn't happen very often that you get to play on the leap year day for obvious reasons. But yes, I mean, I wouldn't mind that being a new tradition. I guess we'll have to find out in 4 years if it can continue, if the league puts us and gives us another leap year game. But it was kind of fun to think about, like, this. I mean, obviously the team hasn't existed since the last leap year. Like, this is the first leap year that the team has been around for, right? Like, I'm not wrong in that. And then I was trying to think, wait a second, did were they even named the Kraken the last time there was a leap year? Because that would have been, I mean, that would have been a while ago, right? Like, I don't know that the Kraken even existed, much less were playing games. So I thought that was fun about this whole thing, was just, being able to talk about that and say that kind of stuff. They might have been named. I don't remember the exact timeline with the leap year, but fun stuff all the way around. Grubauer, you absolute legend, kept them in it early until they finally woke up, and then just lights out the rest of the way. Absolutely. I mean, the amount of things we could say about Philip Grubauer is just endless in this one. Truly, truly endless. I wish I knew more about goaltending. I could really break down some of the more technical aspects. Like I said, I just the way he was tracking, and he just knew where all 10 players on the ice were at any given time uh in front of him. I mean, it was just truly, truly cool to see. Like, you just don't see that very often from goaltenders, and when you do, you see performances like this, and it's just incredible. um Let's see. I just so much about the German gentleman here from everybody. The good stuff about Afra. Maddie, my girlfriend, would like to know what breed Afra is. Afra is a Jindo. It's a Korean breed. You could look it up. She's a rescue from South Korea. She was a meat market dog before they outlawed it. So, fun story there with Afra. Fun. Good stuff there. Love RJ coming in with the big Gru in chat. Love to see that for sure. Can't wait to have him back. Tammy, any thoughts on why they switched Tanev and cards partway through the game? Maybe just for some energy, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, they needed to get going a little bit more. I think the coaching staff knew that after that first period, the team needed to wake up some. I like That's just, one of the things that was pretty evident about everything. And certainly, if you were watching the Root broadcast, Edzo was just not letting that one go. So I think you could see something like that happen. Um, I don't know. It seemed like they switched it up, but not like all the time either. Like, so I was kind of confused by that, like how much of it was a true switch up and how much of it wasn't. Um, but I just think it was one of those, you're just looking for something. They knew that first goal was, you know, more luck than anything. Like, they hadn't really started outworking the Penguins yet when they scored that Oliver Bjorkstrand goal. So I think it was just the kind of normal line blender stuff that you'll see coaches kind of go with and go to. Jessica reminding everybody to like the stream. Thank you, Jessica, there. Let's see. Groovy shutouts. I mean, so many group messages. I love that. I love that. Edward, wait, we have a game in hand on somebody. Seems like we were on the reverse side of that for the longest time. Yeah, but you know what? The Kraken have been doing a good job. They've been getting some rest here. The schedule finally eased up on them a little bit, Edward, and we're getting these extended breaks between games. So I really like that kind of stuff. Let's see. Let's see. Steven, hey Dylan, what was the worst good game the Kraken have played this year, or the best bad game? Gru is saving our hides yet again. What an interesting question, Steven. I don't know that I could totally answer that off the fly, because that's a fun one to think about. Kind of like worst. Yeah, like that's a really interesting question. That's not something you're used to pondering. I'm trying to think. There's been some ugly wins. Uh, I don't know. I'm struggling offhand. I'm kind of trying to quickly pull up the schedule here. I mean, there's been some good games from them. I would argue some of the the Islanders game from last week wasn't the greatest. I know they got the win in the shootout and everything, but like it wasn't the greatest. Um, there's games like that. I thought that their game against, I don't know. I don't know. That might be a better deep dive question, Steven. I'm gonna RJ, you're watching, take note of that and let's talk about that on the next deep dive. I think when we have some time to look at the schedule and everything a little bit more. Tammy with the Steve Briere forever, absolutely. I mean, the work he's done with Philip Grubauer as goaltending coach has been incredible. Borgen to Bjorkstrand is my new favorite goal. What I love about it, Brooke, is you go and you look at it on the NHL website and under the scoring section. And what's so interesting about this is, you know how they officially marked that goal for Oliver Bjorkstrand? It's a bat. That's the shot type. You know, they like Wenberg, it's a wrister. They'll have slap shot stuff like that, but it's just bat, just a bat. Obviously, you batted it in, but I just love seeing that. It's not one you get to see too often. Like with the super chat, I will say I don't think Gru really saved us from ourselves tonight. He was good, but those shots he were facing were not good ones for the most part. I would say there was probably 3 to 4 really dangerous opportunities that Grubauer had to be on the ball for. But the rest of it, I mean, so much of it was the Kraken defense doing a good job of keeping the Penguins to the outside, low quality chances, stuff like that. Like I said, this is what they were doing back when they won all those games. When they were on the 9-game win streak, this was the style that they were playing. Yes, we're ceding a lot more shots on goal. We're not getting as many shots on goal. That's fine because we're going to beat them with quality over quantity. And that's really what the Kraken did. I mean, if you went to and you looked at Money Puck kind of during the second period, the Kraken actually had a higher expected goal total than the Penguins, and they were being outshot like 20-8 or something. And it was just because the Kraken were really making sure that their shots were going to really be dangerous shots. They wanted their shots to count when they took those shots. And with the Penguins, they were just willing to let them shoot from the perimeter, shoot from the outside, shoot right, you know, when Grubauer is totally squared up to the shot and you know he's going to make the save. And again, I'm in favor of this. I think this works with this team. This works with their defense. It means their defense can focus on the things that they generally do better with. You don't run into as many focus issues with this because you're just keeping teams to general areas of the ice. You don't have to worry about so many other things the way that they were kind of running into issues before with passing lanes and keeping heads on swivel and all that kind of stuff. This one, it's very much keep the game in front of you, just kind of keep them to the outside as a general practice. And it's not as, you know, much, you're not putting as much pressure on them to make big individual plays from time to time. So I think that works for the Kraken on the defensive side of things. And I think it does work better for their goaltenders. Certainly a goaltender like Philip Grubauer, who we know from experience with him, he likes the kind of consistent shot, you know, volume. It keeps him in the games. It's what helps him keep, you know, zoned in and all of that kind of stuff. And again, if he's a goaltender, which we know he is, where he wants to be square to the puck, his goaltending style is going to be positionally sound and he's going to be successful because of that. Him being able to face a bunch of low percentage chances where he has clear sight lines to them is perfect for that. I mean, he's gonna have this level of performance every time if you give him those opportunities. That was what was so frustrating for so long was that the Kraken could play that way, whether it was last year, this year, even year one, for every goaltender but Philip Grubauer, even though it's the style that best fits Philip Grubauer when he is in net for them. And so to kind of finally see that in this game, I thought was just truly fantastic. And obviously he gets the shutout and he makes it look easy and he's making all these good saves. And he just looks so dialed in, so focused. He was getting that steady stream of shots. He was able to see them, track them into his chest each and every time. You could see not only was his positioning good, he was able to make those saves. He never gave up rebounds. Point to one rebound Philip Grubauer gave up tonight. You can't because he didn't, right? Like he just was not giving up rebounds because he was able to position himself, see the puck in, control, use his body control to make sure he wasn't giving up a rebound. Even the shots like in his chest, his pads, no rebounds because he was able to be just so square and positionally sound for them that he could handle them. And I thought that was the thing that is the biggest takeaway for me is that the Kraken kind of finally played that way in front of him. and we saw how well it works. And I love to see that. And then, offensively, like I said, Kraken, make those shots count, get in and around the net. They weren't taking any shots from mid range. If you pull up the shot chart from this one, I mean, there's the normal like periphery shots that all teams have, shots from the point, all that kind of stuff. But then everything else was down low for the Kraken. There's just this whole gap in the middle of the zone where they just didn't take shots this game. And I think that, again, is the kind of the way that they played during that 9-game win streak. And I think it's the kind of way that the Kraken need to play moving forward, because it's just the way this team is built. They have so many guys who can crash the net. They have size. They've got the skill. They've got the hand-eye coordination. That is the way to get through. And I just think that's the way this team needs to play. Gonna jump down in chat just because I mean there's so many things in here. RJ, Kraken were named July 23rd, 2020, a leap year, but after February 29th. So yes, that's what I thought. They were not in existence, not named, none of that stuff last time there was a leap year. So good stuff. We now know they're good on here. All right, let's see. Bowie's hat trick tweet to the Bruins was savage. Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up, Tammy. I'm gonna have to look that up. Megan, ugly win is still a win, and I'll take them however I can get them. I mean, I'm gonna disagree. I don't think this was an ugly win. I think this is the kind of game the Kraken need. I think it's just it was a really good, solid effort from them. Like they just did it. They just did it. Sergio, Penguins coach made a huge mistake trying to crush the Kraken in the first. He definitely underestimated us. Thank you for this mistake. I mean, look, they're in a similar situation to the Kraken, right? In the Eastern Conference. They need points right now. They're in a dogfight for a wild card spot in their own conference. They're on the far side looking in, similar to the Kraken. They needed points. And so I think what we saw from the Penguins in the first was they really wanted to jump on this team, try to score first. We all know across the NHL, the record for the team that's able to score first is just, infinitely better than if you're scored on first. And so I think the Penguins really, that was just them being prepared for a game and going out there and trying to win, trying to assert themselves early and try to get that first goal. And without Philip Grubauer kind of making a couple key saves, because I'd argue 2 of his 4 big saves were in that first period, things could have gotten so bad. Things could have gotten so bad for the Kraken in this one, because the Penguins, if they're able to capitalize on one of those chances, if they're rewarded for the effort that they had through that first period, they would keep it. And I don't know that the Kraken would have been able to kind of slowly build up to what they eventually became either if they were playing down in this game and they had to catch up or something like that, right? There's so much about this game would have changed, but I think this was really just the Penguins being like, look, we need to win a game, and statistically speaking, the best way to win a game is to go out there and score first. And so they were trying to go out there and score first. They just, didn't expect to run into Philip Grubauer tonight, and aren't we lucky about that? Rebecca, now's a good time to check the standings. Kraken are finally even in points and games played with the Blues and Flames, just outside of the wild card. Just don't look too closely at the gap, tiebreakers, etc. Today is a standings dance party. Agreed. We will ignore those other things, Rebecca. It is just great that they're in there with everybody else. Now we just need the Kings and or Predators to kind of start losing. That would be nice. Would be nice. Chip, oh wow, Wenberg is the first to total 100 points in franchise history tonight. That would be, yeah, I don't think so. I thought they said he was 5th. Yeah, that would make more sense. I didn't think Wenberg would be the first there. And also I could have sworn other people had kind of gotten there first. That is good to know though. Larson had a great game from Matty. He did. Like, again, this style for the Kraken, where it's okay, keep teams to the outside, just don't let them in. Don't let them screen the goaltender. Let the goaltender be able to move in his crease, right? So that he can, go laterally and stay in front of the puck at all times. All of that kind of stuff is just a lot more manageable for the defense, and particularly for this defense, given their struggles. I know I just talked about this. I'm just kind of saying it in a different way. And that's where I think Larson obviously shines, right? When you can kind of play more of a zone defense instead of a man-to-man situation. I just think it's a lot easier on all defensemen, but I think that it really does suit his play style. I think it suits Jamie Alexiak's play style a lot more than a strict man-to-man kind of thing. I think even Vince Dunn does a pretty good job with it. he kind of likes the man-to-man aspect of it. You can kind of see that and notice that the way he engages with players, net front and stuff. He likes that physical element to kind of get himself in the game. Will Borgen does too. But I do think for Adam Larson, Jamie Alexiak, this kind of game is just tailor made for them. And so I would love to see the Kraken kind of continue it, especially if they're going to really kind of ride Philip Grubauer here for the next little bit, because he's the hot goaltender, because it did look like Joey kind of needed a rest. I think it just fits with Grubauer as well. So I really want to see the Kraken continue this for a little while. Stratic, I had a bad feeling going into this game, but that just means I have a better feeling coming out of it. Let's certainly look at on the right side of things there. I know what you mean though, Stratic. I mean, this is the time of year where every game really matters and means a lot. And there's been lots of games this season where we've kind of walked into them going like, wow, the Kraken really need to show up tonight. And then they haven't, right? This season has happened. And so I can understand where you're coming from there, Striatic, for sure. I had actually thought, yeah, that this game could be one that they would drop just because it makes sense, right? It would come up big for the Boston game because it's Boston. And then, this is what they've done. They've won a big game and then somehow lost a game that they probably should have won. That's the way they've been playing. But not tonight. They changed things up, and aren't we all the better for it? Certainly for the post game, it is. Sergio Winnie, for some reason, is underestimated. We'll likely lose him at the end of the season. It'll be hard to find his replacement. Shane is so below compared to him at this point. Yeah, I mean, certainly Wenberg, I do think, is somebody who isn't appreciated for all of the things that he can bring. We know about his passing, kind of how he can play. We saw his hand-eye coordination tonight for sure. But I do think his ability defensively to shut down other teams' players and to help drive possession and be a solid analytics player and do whatever's asked of him is the bottom line. It's just he's a totally coachable guy that an NHL coach, any NHL coach, would love to have on their team, because they can just go have him say to him and have him go out there and do whatever it is they need him to do on that particular night against that particular team. And we see this from him and his line, right? There are games where they are very low volume, low event hockey from them, because they're just trying to keep the other team at bay, the other team's top line at bay. And then not much happens with them. And then there's other nights where that's a different line's job. And then it's, hey, go out there and try to generate some offense for us. And they're able to go out there and generate offense. So I'm with you, Sergio. Wenny is a huge, huge player. I think he's a really good player. I do think, yes, we're going to lose him. And there will be growing pains when Shane comes in to take over for Alexander Wenberg. No doubt about that. There always is when a young player comes in. But I do think in the long run, it'll be for the better for the Kraken. Shane has just a lot more offensive upside personally than Wenberg has, while still maintaining some defensive responsibility. I mean, he's still a really good defender in his own right. So I just think the potential ceiling there for Shane Wright is higher, but I'm with you. Next year, it will be tough. There's going to be times where Shane Wright will make rookie mistakes, as everybody does. And it'll be, what it is. But in the long run, I think it's going to be good. Let's see. Habak. So who goes against the Oilers? Gru is doing amazing, but I don't really like him against the Oilers. It's going to be tough. That's a tough call. I get what you're saying. Oilers can move the puck in lots of interesting ways. They also, if you look back at traditionally how the Oilers beat us, right? We think about the goals scored against us against the Oilers. Kraken do a pretty good job of shutting down McDavid and Draisaitl and a lot of their skilled shenanigans and whatnot. The places where we run into issues with the Zach Hymans of the world, right? Where they are very much driving the net. They're playing net side, right? A lot. Vander Kane, a lot of his goals against the Kraken have come from that kind of net side standpoint. And that's what the Kraken defense really struggles with, right? Like we talked about that. That's why this game worked, because they didn't allow anybody on the Penguins to get in there and around Grubauer, because that's the kind of stuff that can throw off a positional goaltender like Philip Grubauer. If he's got somebody in his crease or somebody in his face, he needs to be able to see and track the puck as it's moving around the zone so that he can always stay square to it, right? Or at least square enough that he can then control rebounds. The last thing you want is him to, be there and track it last second. He's able to make the save, but now there's a rebound and Zach Hyman's right there for it, which we've seen many times over. So I'm kind of there with you, Habak. I know the idea of like Grubauer, it doesn't totally line up with how the Oilers tend to beat us. I just think Grubauer is playing so well right now, and Joey isn't, that I think I would go with Gru for this one. I just think that you kind of have to. Maddie, I love how mad Enzo was at the Penguins' chances in this game. They were crazy. Surprised they didn't get a call. The line changes. Yeah, I mean, there's elements of it like I would love to see video if the Kraken were getting away with the same thing, right? Like sometimes I think Eddie will point out things on other teams, but I've seen the Kraken get away with the same like kind of non-call. I think there are just different reffing crews and officiating crews, and some crews are more lenient about how much space they give you if your team doesn't have the puck, if play is kind of bogged down in a corner, like the one video that they showed us where it's yeah, is it a penalty? Technically, maybe yes. Do they have possession of the puck? All that kind of stuff. Some crews are just more lenient about it than other ones, and I think tonight was just a more lenient crew is the bottom line. And I thought otherwise they called a pretty good game. You look, penalties pretty even for everybody. We actually benefited more from penalty calls throughout the course of the game. So uh, yeah, I know that's kind of the way Edzo has always been. You go back and look at his work with Chicago. He very much, likes to point that stuff out when the visiting team comes to town, I will say. B, Shane is going to be great, but when he brings something different to the table, that'll be hard to replace. Like, yeah, the point totals are lower, but his skill and smarts are just so good for the team. They are. He's a fantastic player, and that's why I think there's a lot of teams around this league that would love to have him as part of a playoff push, if or a playoff run that they're trying to make. If the Kraken do decide to go in that direction, of course they're lying. They're not lying. They're winning a bunch here, and that's pretty good. It's gonna make it hard to trade him if the Kraken can kind of keep winning going into the deadline. We are what 9 days away, so there's still a little bit of time. We'll see how the Kraken go and how the couple teams ahead of them do as well. Maddie, I'm not gonna lie, I was a Wenberg hater last season, but he's really won me over this season. I'd be sad to see him go at the deadline or the end of the season unless a miracle happens. I mean, I'm glad to hear it. Like he's a good player, not flashy in a lot of the big ways. I'd love to see all this love for a guy who plays the style of game that he plays. Really, really love to see that. Let's see. What does it mean that Calgary traded Tanev, in your opinion? That Calgary is committed to the teardown. I think that I mean, they still have some work to do. Hannafin would be another one. But I do think Calgary at the end of the day knows that they kind of need to do a reset with the organization. They're just not going to be truly competitive with the core group that they have, and that they know that they need to start acquiring assets and bringing in some youth into the organization and start stocking the cupboards with some prospects, because they just don't have a ton. And that it's something that in this league, in this day and age, in a salary cap world and all of that stuff, it's just the way that you win. It's the way that you build your team. And so I think they just know that they have to do that. And so I think the Tanev trade fits in with that. I know they're right in that, right? They're tied with the Kraken in the standings here. It looks like they can really push for a playoff berth. They're on a great win streak, but at the end of the day, I think they're valuing the long-term look, and really new GM, new coach, new management structure, all of that stuff this year. Why wouldn't they take the long-term approach? I mean, they're not trying to save their jobs year one. They know that they have the runway, that they can work with it. And I think that's why we saw the Tanev trade. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see a Hannafin trade as well from them in the next, 8 days. Let's see. You can have all the advanced stats you want, but a 24.1 C is a disaster. It's cost this team a playoff spot for Ricky. Talking about Wenberg or Maddie. I don't know. I know we've had this conversation several times, Ricky, right? We have. And I know it, and I've agreed with you, right? The production needs to be there, right? That is partly why the Kraken are in their spot versus being in the spot of, say, the Predators or the Oilers in third place in the division. It's because they struggle to score goals. And that is certainly something that Matty struggled with. And you look at this game and he takes a shot exactly where we all knew that his shot was going to go. And Tristan Jarry had his arm there ready for it. I mean, he didn't even need to move his glove. He just knew exactly where Matty was going to shoot. And Matty shot it right into his glove. There are absolutely those elements to things, Ricky. I'm with you, but I also think that, look, it's only a second full season. Because he chose to focus on defense first, I'm willing to give him more time offensively to come up with things. In the long run, though, I've always thought Shane Wright's a better offensive guy. I think there's a future where Shane Wright's really the 1C for this team in the terms of being the offensive guy, gets a little bit more ice time, playing more on power play time, all that kind of stuff. And he is the point producer, and Maddie's the defensive guy. I think that's fine. Like nothing says that the Kraken can't succeed with that. That is very much a structure that just a ton of teams have won with. So it's it's rough right now, but future Maddie will get better offensively as he spends more time in the league and can work on it and focuses on it. And Shane Wright will be coming in. Let's see. Uh, who will we be racing for a Hattie from on Saturday from Rebecca? I don't want to think about that. Don't make me think about that tonight. Good night, Pablo. There, see that. Um, let's see. I think Gru was pulled in his last two starts against the Oilers. I just don't want him losing confidence when he's playing this well. Yeah, I could see that. Was he really pulled in his last two starts? I'm trying to remember because it's been a while just because he's been injured last year and this year, right? So he missed big stretches. But I mean, I'll believe you, Habak. Yeah. I don't know. I still think I'd go with Grubauer right now. He just looks good. Just looks good. Stratic, the problem with Calgary's teardown is that despite it, they remain tenaciously mediocre and aren't securing early first round draft picks. Yeah, well, that's a problem they have to deal with, and hopefully they never figure it out. Given that they're in the division, I'm fine with that. That's the way Calgary has been though my entire life. Like that's just who they are. Is just they are constantly cursed to always be a playoff bubble team and never anything more or less. It's just who they are. It's who they are. Like while the Preds did win tonight, it was against the Wild, and we still have games in hand on them. So I think it was probably for the better in the long run. I kind of like I would take the Wild winning that game just because it's tough that the Kraken are now 7 back of the Preds, right? They're 7 back. That's a lot. That's 3.5 games. Right? Like it's a huge swing. I think it would have been better to have a team around you in close within a point of view if Minnesota had won that game, and then have that second wild card spot be 5 points away instead. Personally, that's how I would rather have it. That's what I think. I would rather have it be a setup like that for the Kraken where they're 5 points back, but they're maybe 1 point behind the Wild, because that's a lot more easy to attain. 7 points, 3.5 games. That's a lot. I mean, that's a big gap to make up. And there's no line there, right? And your Kraken just played game 59. Got 23 games left to make up 3.5. It's certainly doable. It's not like impossible or unlikely even, but it's a lot. So I want that. Let's see. Since you asked for a reminder, Dylan, Saturday's game on 3/2, March 2nd, versus Edmonton is Kraken Day, and the boys are 2-0 all time on their day. Ooh, let's go. Okay, so Power of Kraken Day versus the Curse of the Oilers and the Curse of the Matinee games. This is gonna be interesting. That's gonna be some much must-watch hockey. This game on Saturday against the Kraken. Against the Oilers there. That's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, that's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, thank you for the reminder there, Lindsay. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So good. Um, Love that. I like that we leapfrog the Wild on Leap Day from Edward. That is fun. That is definitely fun. Let's see, Viren, and really 8 since the tiebreakers aren't favorable. Agreed. Yes, from a point standpoint, you need to clear Nashville, or you need to clear anybody. Looking at this, I mean, they are still the closest team that the Kraken could catch with the regulation wins is Minnesota, and they're still 2 back of Minnesota there. If you look at Nashville, they're 7 back. That's not being made up. That's not, you're not getting there. So yes, you would need to clear them by a full point. So yes, we're really talking about a 4-game difference there. Looking ahead for the Kraken, they're essentially 4 games out of a wild card spot. So Nashville, by the way, is 1-7. I don't like it. Fuck, Nashville's pissing me off because they're stealing a wild card spot just to get smoked in the first round. I know. That's exactly what they're doing. That's what they do every year. That's just who they are. Just like Calgary is doomed to always miss the playoffs by like 3 points. Nashville's doomed to always make the playoffs and then just get bounced in the first round. That's just who they are. It's their identity. It's all I know them for and as. Oh, but that is where we're at, unfortunately, right now. Let's see. Can't believe the Leafs gave a third for a terrible defenseman. Schultz should easily get us a second from Light. Yes, so the Leafs trading a third for defenseman earlier today, Lyubushkin, right? And yeah, the Kraken, Justin Schultz brings a lot more to the table than Ilya Lyubushkin, like he just does. So yeah, the trade market for Justin Schultz, should the Kraken want to explore it, gonna be healthy. It's gonna be healthy. It just will be. So interested to see if something happens there again. Just knowing that they have Riker Evans who can just slide right in shouldn't even really disrupt things. Now, maybe if the Kraken continue to win, let's say the Kraken don't lose another game before the deadline, do we think Ron Francis does anything? Do you not want to upset the apple cart if that happens? I could see that being the case. Like, even if he's kind of still loosely planning on doing it right now, but if the team goes, lossless and they win everything up into the deadline, it would be tough. It would be really, really tough. Let's see. Lindsay, Oilers and matinee hockey curses got to cancel themselves out, right? Is this a double negative thing? It ends up a positive. Like, is that multiplication, right? You're multiplying two negative numbers, it ends up positive. I would be okay with that. I would be okay with that. We'll certainly find out. Let's see. Kylie, we do have 2 games in hand on Nashville, at least. That's 4 points if we can win them. Yeah, so that is halfway there. You need to make sure you win them, but that does get you halfway there. Those 2 games do get you in there. Stratic, yeah, if LA and Nashville both finish with 600 points percentages, which is looking more likely each time they win, Kraken playoffs are pretty much impossible. Nice ray of sunshine there. I mean, you're right, Stratic. I'm not saying that to you, but yes, I'm trying not to think that way. I'm trying to stay positive. It's attainable. Nashville can't win forever. The Kings, they're a mess. There's a chance. Let's see. I'd love if the Flames decided to give up on Dustin Wolf and he would get moved to a team from Seattle, because that would be neat. So get to it, Calgary from Lights. That would be interesting. Let's see. We just have to bait the Oilers into playing Pickard fusion mix. Yes, that is how we need to do it. Someone come up with a good way of making that happen. Let's get on that, because fusion mix is definitely onto something. Let's see. Also, did we fix Dumo? I'll be real. After the first 10 games, he's been great. We did. I mean, Dumo fixed himself. We had nothing to do with it. As Bryce saying, he's been great most of the year. He has. I mean, we've talked about this a couple times now. He really readjusted to things. I think a lot of what his early season struggles were at the very beginning of the year was, one, adjusting to a new team for the first time. I'll give anybody a handful of games just to do that. Adjusting to a new conference, I think that there's an element to that too. Conferences still play pretty different from each other, so there's an element of that. And then I think there's just an element too of, also, he aged another year. I think he probably slowed down a tiny bit, and there's just an element of having to adjust to that speed difference when you hit a certain age, especially as a defenseman. You look at all of the issues he was having, a lot of them were just with him struggling to keep up coming back, or knowing when he needs to transition from skating backwards to flipping around forwards, right? Turning his hips and being able to go and follow the puck carrier and keep them to the outside, stuff like that. It's entirely possible he just naturally slowed down, like everybody does as they get into their 30s, professional athletes, right? And he just needed to learn to adjust, right? Just look ahead. Okay, when the guy's a little 5 feet further back is when I gotta start making my rotation, because I've lost that little bit of a step. And I think there was elements of that. I think a lot of it, though, was probably just changing teams, just getting to know guys, getting to know his defensive partners, building that chemistry, building that familiarity, building that confidence and comfort, because there's elements of that too, right? It's new building for the first time, new practice facilities, new city that you're living in with your family, and everybody's adjusting to that, and you're still dealing with that side of things too. All that stuff that takes place off ice. I think there was a lot of that there for Brian Dumoulin, and then yes, once it clicked, he's been great since. So good. Let's see. I believe in the King's ability to choke lol from Zoe. I do too. I really, really do too. I like that. Um, people talking about so Viren, if they bench Riker for the rest of the year for veteran, whatever, so help me. Uh, Michael agree, play Riker, and then Ricky handling of Riker has been terrible. I defended their handling of Riker on the last deep dive. I think it's okay for now. It's okay to have him sit, learn, do the Will Borgen thing, right? Where he kind of rides the bench for a little while, just works with Jay Leach with that extra practice time because he's the scratch, be around the team, get used to the NHL stuff, all that stuff. I think that's fine for now. What I said though was if they don't move Justin Schultz at the deadline, you got to then send him back down. Either you play him at the NHL level or you send him back down, because you don't want him to ride the bench the entire rest of the season. I think for, a 10, 15, 20 game stretch, I think that's fine. He's getting to work with NHL coaches. He's around the team. He's practicing with them. He's, watching the games, learning that stuff, being around for their film sessions, all of that stuff. It's all really, really good stuff, but you can't do that forever. He needs to still be playing games. So I think if they move Justin Schultz, we're going to see him go in. If they don't move Justin Schultz, I would love to see him go back to Coachella Valley and help them go for a Calder Cup, because I don't know what else you would really do with him, to be perfectly honest. Via Ren, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, given how they handled Borgen and Tolvanen, but that only goes so far. Exactly. Well, that's what I'm doing too, right? It goes as far as the trade deadline for me. That's when it runs out. That's what I think you got to make a decision there. But yeah, I'm with you. Given how those other situations have worked out, we just know this. A lot of defensemen, this is how their careers go. Is that they kind of get to the NHL inconsistent in and out of games, and then they kind of take over that next season. That's a very standard progression for NHL defensemen. It's happened to a lot of people. I believe it happened with Vince Dunn in St. Louis as well. Let me try to look that up real quick, but I believe that was kind of how St. Louis handled him as well back in the day. So it's not something too abnormal, but at the same time, it's not something I want to see continue for too much longer. Just because I don't think it would be the best for him. No, Dunn just came in at 21, but then he got a full season. But a lot of guys have done that. Let's see. Every time I remember that Cartier is still a rookie, I'm a little surprised. I know it feels like he's been around forever because that playoff run last year, but yes, he's still a rookie. Habak can confirm his last 3 starts. Grew was pulled in 2 of them and left injured in 1 of them. I'm hoping this is a trap game for the Oilers. Wow, that is a lot of rough history to be going up against if we do go with Grew against the Oilers. But I'm not a big superstitions guy, so I would say still go with Grubauer. He's the good goaltender right now. He's dialed in. Let's keep him dialed in. And you need the 2 points at this point. You just every game you got to treat it like you need them. You need the win. I think Riker being a point per game player at every level, he got sent back to the OHL, showed he wasn't gaining much there. I think you guys made good points on the deep dive about what he gains here. Vince Dunn couldn't get ice time like that at all. It's why the Blues fans in hindsight were upset with him leaving. Yeah, that was the thing with Vince Dunn in St. Louis, was that he was just stuck buried down the depth chart. Once he came to the Kraken, he was able to break that 20-minute barrier, and then certainly these last 2 years, over 23 minutes on average for Vince Dunn. So, kind of able to grow into the player that he had the potential for, that he was just, buried on the depth chart in St. Louis. Certainly something that can happen, and you don't want that to happen to Riker Evans. Now, you look far enough out, pull up Cap Friendly, go to the Seattle Kraken. Not too many defensemen on the books for the Kraken if you go that far out, right? Vince Dunn is really the only one. So for a while now, I think that's where we're going. Maddie, you tweeted what scouts were in the building if RJ's sick. Also, do you think Anaheim? Well, why do you think Anaheim had 2 scouts at the game? RJ got that information. I'm assuming RJ, you can answer if you're still here. I assume RJ got that information because from somebody else in the building, from asking for a favor from somebody who had access to the seating chart. Actually, the seating charts might be put in one of the emails from the PR team or in the Slack, something like that. So that's how RJ got that out. Why do I think Anaheim had 2 scouts? Anaheim and Tampa both had 2 scouts. I don't know. I mean, ducks flock together. It's an answer. No. I think if they're really interested in something, then, you'd want that. I do wonder if one of them is their head scout or their head of pro scouting mixed in with a different scout. In which case, then they're, just looking at things together. They're having bigger, longer conversations. You just kind of have them around. They could be taking a look at things. It's entirely possible that they were there for the Penguins just as much, if not more so, than with the Kraken. So I think that's something to consider. But yeah, I don't know specifically why both of those 2 teams would have 2 people. I also know for Pat Verbeek has been kind of traveling around, even though he made the trade tonight. But I did hear that earlier today, was that Pat Verbeek has kind of been going around and looking. So it's entirely possible that it wasn't so much a second scout as it was a member of the front office, maybe an assistant general manager. If they're really looking at doing something, then they would want, just that additional pair of eyes on, something like that. I think that's something that has certainly happened before. RJ just texted Ron, obviously. Of course. We definitely have that ability. Do scouts usually travel in pairs? Yes and no. So scouts will travel with other scouts, but from different organizations. Very rarely would you have 2 scouts from the same team in the building, unless you're really thinking about making a trade for somebody from a specific team and you want the double report, right? You want 2 people to have eyes on one specific guy so that you can really, just kind of double check and make sure you're getting or you're targeting the guy that you want to be targeting. So that would be the reason to have 2 scouts in the building if it isn't a member of the front office, would be to just have just get 2 reports on somebody. Have 2 people both come to the same conclusion or roughly the same conclusion, so that you have that information and that ability to move forward if you are the general manager. So it is unusual for 2 members of the same organization to be in the building, but scouts do tend to, travel together and hang out, and they'll book, travel schedules and stuff with each other because they're all friends and they all know each other. Usually a lot of them have been former players, so they all know each other from back in the day, all that kind of stuff. Let's see, maybe they're moving Zegras. At some point they're going to move Zegras. I don't know that they'd move him this year. Maybe it's an off-season thing, but there's a 0 chance that Zegras finishes his current, bridge deal with the Ducks, in my opinion. He's gone at some point for sure. Fuji should have gotten the press pass. Definitely. 1,000% agree, Stratic. Oilers, Lindsay, Oilers and Vegas have 72 and 73 points in the standings. If they both have losing stretches in these last 20 games, then it's going to get really interesting. It will. That would be that's a lot of excitement. What if the Canucks fall out of the playoffs hunt that have been hot garbage lately? I don't know that that's possible. Canucks kind of built enough of a cushion, I think, they would have to really go on a tear. I mean, they're at 83 points. They're 10 points clear of Vegas, who's second in the division. I think they're okay. But it still doesn't bode well for them entering the playoffs if they can't kind of figure out a way to turn this around. Zoe, was our PK good tonight, or was the Pens power play just that bad? PK was good, as it usually is. This was, again, a huge game from the Seattle Kraken penalty kill. They're just so good at getting in passing lanes, all that kind of stuff. I mean, Penguins weren't able to get anything down low. Again, like, they just kept everything to the perimeter, and you keep things to the perimeter, you're just gonna, you don't allow a guy to screen your goaltender. You don't allow a guy to be there for rebounds. You allow your goaltender to see it so he doesn't even give up the rebound. No team's going to score on the power play if you can do that. And the Kraken were able to do that tonight. Let's see. Lindsay and I'm 2 scouts there because they're sussing out a Zegras trade. It's certainly possible. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I doubt that they would. I really doubt that they would trade him in division. Which, like, I don't know that they would do that. Very few teams would do that. Could the Ducks be around for a Zegras trade? I mean, Jake talked about it. It's like I said, it's possible. I think it would have to. They wouldn't want to do it in division, but if the Kraken were offering the best package, that could happen. Maybe they're looking talking with Pittsburgh, though. Like, again, this could just be seeing Pittsburgh, as Pittsburgh comes out here to the West Coast, is a lot easier on everybody than it is to go all the way to Pittsburgh, right? So it's also possible Anaheim was really there for Pittsburgh more than they were there for Seattle, especially if Pittsburgh is in the market to buy right now because they're trying to make a push. We don't think the Kraken are really in the market to buy. Anaheim's certainly not in the market to buy. They'd be looking to sell. So it's very possible they were really just there for the Penguins and not for the Kraken at all. And then Maddie, why is Zegras gone? Because him and the new front office regime and coaching staff have just been butting heads a lot lately. And then with them trading Jamie Drysdale, who's been like his friend within the Ducks organization for really since he was drafted. Just all the reports have just been that he just isn't really happy there, and they're not totally happy with him, and they don't really know where he fits in. And I don't really know where he fits in long term for them either, given that they have Cutter Gauthier now, who can play on the wing. They've got Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish down the middle. Zegras obviously isn't going to be a bottom six center for you. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But a lot of it just comes down to this offseason and the contract negotiations. They were so far apart on anything long term. He wanted to be paid like a top center. They did not view him as such, which personally I agree with. I don't think he has the 200-foot game. I don't even think he's that much of a point producer, right? He's obviously an extremely skilled player, but it doesn't always translate to massive production. And so I just think that that difference in money and view of him and his future, and given how many other young players they have within the organization that are just really going to fit into a system a lot easier than a Trevor Zegras type guy would. I just think for all those reasons, Zegras is just his days are numbered in Anaheim. They'll get a young piece for him, a prospect probably is what they'll target for their timeline, and they'll move on from him because I just don't think they want to commit to him financially in the long term, and that's something that he would want. And there will be a team out there that's willing to do that for him. And I'm with Light. I don't know that they'd trade him right now at the deadline too. You don't need to, for one. He's under contract for 2 more years after this, and he is injured right now, as Light you point out. So I don't think it doesn't make sense right now, leverage wise, to make a move. You just don't need to. You can afford to wait. All right, so I think that's gonna do it for this one, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us, or joining us. Yeah, Afra was here too, and yeah, I mean, just huge win for the Kraken, staying in it. They need the 2 points, need 2 points just basically each and every game. We can get them at this point. But I really love the way we saw them play tonight. I think this is the prototypical model for how the Kraken need to play the rest of the season. Low scoring, take advantage of your chances, get in there around the other team's crease, make their goaltender uncomfortable, score the dirty goals, get those rebounds, all that kind of stuff offensively. And then defensively, make sure your goaltender can see the puck, especially if it's going to be Philip Grubauer. It just plays into his system and style so well. Got to make sure you do that. Keep teams to the outside, all that good stuff. The Kraken are able to play like this. I think they can have that kind of huge win percentage down the stretch that they're going to need to have to get back into a playoff spot. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to RJ getting better. Love all that kind of stuff. Can't wait for that. Thanks everybody for joining us. And of course, thanks to Flat Stick Pub for sponsoring this post-game live. As always, huge shout out to them and all of their amazing locations all around this great state of Washington. And thanks to everybody for the super chats. Really appreciate those as well. And we will see you all next time.